The last segment of our Dialogue Speaker series will be a panel discussion about the challenges of building transitional housing in Hong Kong. Transitional housing refers to short-term housing provided for low-income groups living in poor conditions, who have not been able to move into public housing. Guest speakers for the panel are Dr. Calvin Look, Project Manager and Team Leader at the Jockey Club Design Institute for Social Innovation, Ms. Jeannie Chu, Community Organizer and Project Social Worker of Transitional Social Housing Projects of the Society of Community Organization of Hong Kong, and Mr. Lam Lai Shen, Architect with the Thomas Chow Architects Limited. And lastly, Ms. Rosanna Wong, a member of the Construction Industry Council's Committee on Building Information Modeling. Please welcome them on stage with a big round of applause. But firstly, Dr. Natasha Calvin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming on this Saturday afternoon. This is, in fact, the last sections of the dialogue series, Master Talk, right? Thank you, Winnie, for inviting us. Today, I represent the Polytechnic University of Hong Kong to present to you a topic on transitional social housing. I'm not sure that whether all of you are familiar with the topic, so I'm going to give you a very quick introduction. But today it's really about dialogue, as the topic of this series has suggested. I will also invite very important stakeholders in this issue. From the community, we have SOCO, Social Community Association, and also from the building industry, we have Ms. Rosanna Wong here to also introduce us to the topic. Why we want to talk to you about transitional social housing in such a design exhibition. The reason is that this transitional social housing is one of the very important topic in Hong Kong. The exhibition today is called 25 Years of Design, but for the very first time, we find out when we tackle the issue of transitional social housing, there's a number of firsts in this particular topic. It is the first time the government has entrusted an external community party to design the living units for those housing. Now let me ask every one of you, how often do you have the opportunity to design your own units? Okay, unless you are Mr. So-and-so, you've got your villa down in south, whatever. It is a very rare occasion that a community are allowed or have actually the main stakeholders to design for this housing. So that's the first. The second thing very new to design is this housing is going to be a relocatable type. Imagine you see housings every day, you see buildings every day, and a lot of magnificent presentations that you've seen in this exhibition. But a housing that will be able to relocate in the next few years and move to another site. So that's very new. That's also globally, not many has been done. So Hong Kong will probably the first one who relocate the one right from Nam Chong Street, which I pointed out during my presentation, to another site in Tai Po. It's going to happen at the end of the year. So that is the second important thing for design. The third and the most important thing is it has a very significant impact to the building industry. Not many architects around here, I don't think so, was a lot in the past 2 days, but today I think they're either working in the office again as usual, Saturday, mind you, or they taking a rest for the last 2 days. It changes the building industry to a new paradigm because we are using modular integrated construction. And I'll be very honored to have Rosanna to give you a bit more details later on if you're not familiar with that. But important of that is not just because it's a modular integrated construction. It has actually changed the engagement of how we, originally I'm an architect by training, how we architect will approach the design of such building. And that's why we also have Mr. Lam from Thomas Chow and Associates to share with us his experience on how to design for this special type of housing. I've been working on this project since 2018 for the past four and a half years. I have to say to you, as an architect, our challenge is far beyond where everyone has anticipated right in the beginning. In the very beginning, I have engaged architects, large and small firms, and they all say to me, oh, 3-story housing, 4-story housing is not a big deal. But let me tell you something, and then you tell me at the end of this talk, you tell me how you think. what we have went through for the past 4 years was all the original design. I mean, Mr. Lam might want to have a debate with me later on, but let's do that later on. All the original architectural design, when they were being built, not just by Rosanna, but by other people, they were completely changed. Almost 100%. Why is that? I mean, all the endeavor that we architects has designed and put all our effort and blood and sweat onto it was changed by the contractor. Now, I'm not trying to say that the contractor is working against us. No, rather we're working together. But what I'm saying is, for building designers like myself, Mr. Lam, and architects, fellow architects, we are entering a new age of working together with you, each one of you in the community, to design housing, to design buildings for us together. It's not just us, an elite group of architects sitting behind in the office tower to design things for you to live in, because it's not us who live in that, it's for you to live in that. Now, how it happened, so Jenny from SOCO is going to tell us how that happened, and if the format is, I will do a quick introduction of the background, and then I'll also invite Jenny to do a quick introduction of the actual housing that she has built, and then Rosanna will tell us the construction technology that she has adopted to build on this. And after that, we'll have panel discussions to discuss on the challenges. So I better start. I just mentioned I'm from Polytechnic University. The unit that I work in is called the Design Institute for Social Innovation, and that is exactly what this innovation is about. Okay. Very quick background about transitional social housing. I call those things it is a very unique type of housing. As I said, it has to be relocated in 3 to 4 years or at the most. Why is that? Because the parcels of land were being donated or being assigned by the government for use for only 4 up to 5 years. Now, renewable opportunities are not guaranteed. So this housing, once it was built on site, has to be relocated. So you see, we have some fellow designers over there on your left-hand side. They have envisaged some very nice layout, but these are all temporary. They have to be relocated to another site in a short term. And this actually started in 2017 when the policy address has indicated the importance of having and trusting non-profit organizations, that is 我哋叫做社福團體 community groups to design, and actually it is the first time they take on the role of a developer. And Jen is the one who share her experience to you. To me, as an architect, I've been building for the past 30 years. It's a very daunting task, I can assure you. Very daunting task. I might not be able to handle it myself, but Jenny did wonderfully, so I want to hear from her. And the beneficiaries, we already understand that there's a huge, long waiting list for public housing. And mode of provision, I must emphasize that if you look at number 3, now social housing comes in all sorts of formats. Some of them in individual flats that's already existing there. Some of them we convert school buildings, you heard of that in TV, convert industrial buildings, convert even hostels to do it. But the majority, 86.5%, were built by new MIC. That's why the role of building industry play a very important part of that, and Rosanna will elaborate on that. And so far, we deliver about 6 completed projects. I mean, the government has promised 20,000 units in the next 3 years. And very quick run through on Polyu's work on this since 2018. I don't think I've ever on that. We have a booth on that side of the exhibition hall. You can have a look at our project, and also the 2 researchers that we've done. We're not only doing studies in the schools, we engage extensively with community groups, as you can see that in these. And as I mentioned, we published a number of publications here. Right? If you're interested, you can go to our booth, have a look, or you can even download on our website. Okay, 2 research projects, which is something that we still completing. One is on the expandable scheme, which specifically for Hong Kong, we try to introduce this scheme to try to overcome the logistic transportation in Hong Kong, because the road transportation in Hong Kong is much difficult than those in overseas. We only allow 2.5 meters of modules to go out to the public road. Another public policy research that we are doing now, so again, the details you can look at our booth. Now, I'd rather just jump into straight away the challenge for design that I mentioned earlier. Now, the whole project delivery has changed Traditionally, architect designs something, it goes out to tender, and then it goes to the builder, but it didn't work. It didn't work. Okay. An example here, this is the first building that our industry has attempted on Nam Chong, on Sam Shui Po. The original buildings, as you can see, was 3 red boxes on this side, but at the end, it built as 1 big block. Okay, the reason was a lot of reasons behind that, mainly because of the viability of the financial investment. It didn't allow the buildings to be split into 3 blocks, but rather a 1 big block of different repetitions will offer us the best solution. And that's also because the client's requirement is very unique in social housing. You can see this in examples here, how different module size has delivered different number of units or yield different number of units. Now, why is that important? It wasn't so important for an architect before, but now it's very important because it dictates exactly how much we can spend on the project. The government, when they entrusted the NGO, they were given a particular amount of money per unit. Now, obviously, if you have more units than in one project, you get more yield from that. So the designer is coming to a point that they have to think of, or Mr. Lam had to think of, from the architecture side, what's the maximum use of the number of units. And then the last but not the least, it's about the efficiency of repetition. That's another challenge to the designers, to architects, how we can increase the repetitions in a small project like this. Okay, in a high-rise building, it's different, I can tell you, because in a small project, we're talking about 100 or 200 units. If you have, we say, a lot of a lot of version of that, the repetition will be very diluted, and the scale of economy is lost, and the project price went up, so we cannot afford that. Okay, that's a very quick background on what I'm going to tell you. So the next presentation, I'll ask Jenny from the Society for Community Organization, gives you a bit more background on what transitional social housing is about, and in particular to the latest one that she has just completed. I hand over the next 5 to 10 minutes to Jenny. Okay, and Mr. Lam too. Mr. Lam is the one who designed and worked on this project together with Jenny. So Mr. Lam, architect Mr. Lam, and Jenny, please come up to the stage. I'll hand over the time to you. Okay, thank you.
I'm Jenny from Society for Community Organization. I'm the social worker of the project and also the operator of the project of this one located in Yinghua Street of Transitional. Just a brief introduction on our organization. We are just an NGO doing the social service, mainly working for underprivileged. Our working target mainly located at Sam Shui Po. So starting from 2018, we start looking for vacant idle land within the community, and to check whether there is a possibility for us to build our own house. Because from the very beginning, we have just we're just renovated old house to provide different types of transitional social housing. But the point is that we could see the community and also the environment of such types of housing is not very satisfactory from our side, and will be unable to serve big family and also elderly. So from that time, we go for different types of construction. So I'll leave the time to Lam. He's our project architect and also our voluntary architect in kicking off the project. Before we get the funding from the government, we seek his help in develop our project. And the most important struggle between building our own house is the balance of the communal space and also the living space, because the land we have is just a tiny small place. For East Yinghua Street project, we only offer 140 units to serve the underprivileged. But the most important thing is that from the governments, we do not have any extra funding to support the social service facility. So we need to strike a balance to provide flat unit and also the community service space to our service target. So I will leave I'll leave the time to Mr. Lam to introduce more about our design concept.
So thank you, Jenny. So I'm Lan from Thomas Cha Architects, and I have the honor to have Jenny invite us to work on this first transitional housing project right from the beginning when they sought funding. So as you can see from this this plan and the image, it is actually located in a site in Shamshui Po, and originally an open space site with a drainage reserve in between. With 140 units. So one of the things that we are most concerned in balancing is the living space and also the community space. How we strike a balance between the budget, the site constraints, the technology that is MIC construction and logistics. So with this space, how you use the budget to provide a nice living area in the front with a wide windows and a bathroom with open kitchen. All these design details are require costs, and we really had to strike a balance between the budget and making this work. You can see in other transitional projects that their layout is different. Some have the bathrooms and kitchens at the window side, so that they could spend less money on providing mechanical ventilation. But the living space is also a very important issue to behold for the upcoming residents of the spaces. So we tried really hard to negotiate this to happen, to make things work in this. So this is the site plan. We had a site in Shamshui Po, which is an open space site with a drainage reserve, and this actually put a lot of constraint in the magnitude of the project, and also how the buildings are sited. You see this division in 2 blocks. It actually created a lot more E&M services that are required in duplicate to pass through government. But at the same time, we took it as an opportunity to create social spaces in front and between the buildings. And also another issue is how to create social spaces within the building that are covered, that can allow residents to mingle and get together. And these are not covered in the current transitional housing funding, which is based on a number of units. So it's really something to think about. And it was a struggle to create unplanned, like these open spaces up in the flat roofs. We had a long discussion with different stakeholders on the benefits or what these spaces do. It seems to be unplanned, but actually you can see when it gets built, there are families and children that would play on these or get together at these spaces, a more private, secluded area than the area at the ground floor. So these spaces are where interactions can happen between people, and it would bring a sense of community to those that living here and would soon move on to the other public housing projects. Another space that we created is a courtyard right behind one of the blocks, and we took the opportunity to transplant one of the trees that were sitting on the site and place it in as a focal space in the center to allow again residents to mingle in a sheltered place, and also it creates a bit of privacy between blocks that would otherwise be looking at back to back with each other. And as you see here, this shows the the magnitude of the drainage reserve spaces, because we had a main sewage plant that serves the district at the northwestern side and would go down to the harbor front. So all these constraints created opportunities for us to work with the landscape designers, creating interaction spaces, playgrounds for children to have fun in a safe environment. So we are taking all these principles to other sites. This is another site that we were working with SOCO at the moment at Kwai Chung, which is a abandoned a site that was previously used as a construction site for the express rail. And so you can see the same constraints in these transitional housing sites. Some of these are with abandoned attic, which would be which would have issues with building strong foundations there. It would be a challenge. So we had to place all the units to one side. But this also creates opportunities for, again, different communal spaces, communal activities to happen, which is, I think, the essence of these community housing, not only as a space to live, but also as a space to get people together and improve their lives in the future. So this is the end of our part, and we would like to invite Rosanna to maybe share a few words about the contractor side of the things.
This is great. Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Lam. And first of all, thank you so much for the organizer to invite me to be here, and also Kelvin as well. Allow me to be here to share with you our experiences, learn from you all, and most of all, to collaborate with you all in the future. I think from Kelvin, it's very much like looking into the philosophy and the background of traditional housing. And Jenny, as the owner and the NGO who has to run it, which absolutely, I take my hat off for her because it's so much work to do and so under budget. And of course, from Lam's perspective, it's very much architecture side. Now, today, I'm looking to share with you the contractor side, how we actually build this, to make that actually into reality. This is the actual snapshots about what we have done. Basically, what we need to do for this brief start, under the last government, the Housing and Transportation Bureau, given us 550,000 to build one unit. Doesn't matter that unit is one unit, one person, two person, three person, it's the same price. And what we have to do is not only is built by our concrete MIC, meaning the boxes, but we have to demountable as well. In the future, we have to take it away. Why do we do that? Because it's more environmental friendly. And from our technology, we can take our boxes anywhere, more or less in Hong Kong, and we can actually sustain that from a much longer term. But instead of doing these 140 units, but guess what? We have to build 196 boxes. That all costing in 550,000 within that budget. But once we've frozen the design, all we have to do is we only took us 2 months to do the production, and another 2 months to do the installation on site, just like that. Only 4 months, everything's completed. However, the actual time for this project, we completed within 10 months. From the original brief, we are actually shortened about 3.5 months. In other words, we are built faster in terms of the time-wise is 40%. And the manpower also a lot less, which is 60%. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the actual essence of modular integrated construction. Not only we can build on time, better quality, more sustainable, less dust, gain better installation, less noise, use less manpower, the quality far more better because you would imagine all the boxes are actually made in factory. And the logistic is basically our planet, luckily is in the southern part of China. So in other words, we transported the boxes from China to Hong Kong. It only took us 1 hour and 50 minutes, just like that. And the whole thing you can see, we can really help build a lot faster in Hong Kong. And this is the actual product. You can go and actually see it for yourself. It's no different than you buying a public housing or even a private housing, because it's all built by rebar and concrete. As people would know, researchers will tell you, concrete will last for what we call at least 15 years, 50 years, if not 100 years, with a better maintenance and care, and obviously we have to look into the details of the surfaces. So in other words, it's a very good proven material as well as technology to build for us in Hong Kong, and suited our climate, because Hong Kong we have typhoon. So in other words, our building department is very stringent when it comes to our wind code. So in other words, using concrete, a traditional method, but put it into a new context will really help us to build a lot faster. This is the actual end result. Moving on. What have we actually done, we ask ourselves? It's so little money. Imagine, how do we actually put all this new thing into reality? It's not proven to be done yet in the future, previously. So what we have to convince our government and the stakeholder, and also our NGO, the end user, and also the resident who actually live in that. Our development is actually unique and also proven to be just like what we used to be. So before we can actually tender for this project, we have to apply for what we call IPA, in principle acceptance from building department. In other words, building department will check our technology beforehand, whether our technology is actually sound before they give us IPA. Once we got IPA, we can tender for MIC project. It so happened this one is demandable, that's all. And for our group, we basically have 9 patents and 9 IPAs. And all these are different way of using modular integrated construction to build in our Hong Kong environment. Why do we want to do that? Because I don't know whether you know, in Hong Kong, we more or less have about 300,000 workers. Roughly speaking, about 43% of them are aged 50 and above. In other words, it's aging population, aging workers. You imagine asking a 15-year-old to actually build for us. It's feasible, and because they're very skilled workers. I take my hat for them, I totally respect them. But however, with the hot weather and all this climate we face in Hong Kong, we can't build as fast as we possibly could. That's the reason why to actually manufacture our units in China in a manner that is actually making like cost. In the actual production line, not only the quality is better, it's a lot faster as well. And the quality is actually maintained. I'll show you what we actually done to actually look into the quality control, and without fail, by delivering 196 boxes into Hong Kong, it's all proven. None of them has actually got anything wrong. Is that meaning we are so superb that we don't do anything wrong? That's not the case, because we have a very immaculate checking system, which I will share with you in a minute. By doing the quality control in our Hong Kong government, we have a procedures what to do. You can't just manufacture something or make something, even cast in situ. You can just do it just like that. We have to follow a lot of books and rules and orders. And for us to ship the majority of the work and the bulk of the boxes manufactured in China, we have to follow our Development Bureau's guidelines and the checking procedure as well. So what we've done was, because it's an NGO project, we don't have much budget to do totally what we call total BIM, meaning everything is from planning, design to finish, using building information modeling, which is like 3-dimensional space to do it. We only have budget to actually do the manufacturing downstream part, we call that. The reason why we do that is because if we don't use BIM to do manufacturing, like the mold making, we can't have the precision to actually manufacture the boxes, which is with a structural wall included, and all the furnishing inside as well. That's the reason why those are very technical support that we have to do. So we've done the minimal, but to keep the integrity of our boxes. What we've done was we implanted an RFID chip into the box. The RFID chip is actually like an ID card. All the checking procedures of what we've done for the boxes are recorded within the RFID chip. And then we selected the most important, quite often it's about 8 to 15 points of checking system. For instance, we must check our rebars if it's actually all correct before we could pour the concrete. And things are sequential. So in other words, whatever we've done after we pour the concrete, things are actually past the previous action. And all these are recorded on blockchain. I don't know whether you know, blockchain technology means you can't alter the data. Everything is simultaneously hosted in the nodes in Hong Kong. So in other words, all the procedural, who's done wrong or right, is captured with the text, voice recording with pictures, who and what time check in what part is all recorded under a system, and the important parts are blockchain. And I was told this is not only the very first blockchain multifunctional quality control platform in Hong Kong, if not in the world. And that proven to be helpful for a contractor because we also manufacture. After we manufacture the boxes, we have to transfer the boxes from China to Hong Kong. So in other words, we also keep track on the logistic. So with the logistic, we also have a module. We will keep track not only for the boxes, but we keep track on the welfare for the driver. What do we do for the welfare of the driver? We put the sensors within the spatial, within the driver, the component, the compartment itself. We test and make sure that we have sensors there to make sure that the air quality within the driving conditions are good. If not, we will have different spray and help the driver to have a better air quality while doing the transportation and their job, basically, to increase their wellness for the driver. It's all inclusive within our module. And of course, when it comes to our construction side, our development bureau asks us to follow what we call the DWSS procedural. And we've done that as well, capture onto our BD platform, and all this all the way to the what we call city information modeling, as well as CDE, something is rather technical. I think we will have another chat if you're interested. I'm very happy to share with you. But of course, the whole idea is open BIM, open platform, plus we actually follow what we call ISO 900 650, something that is a standard we must follow in order to achieve results like this. So the end result, basically, not only we've done all 196 boxes correctly, but also we use just-in-time method transfer to Hong Kong. And that's very important, ladies and gentlemen, because if the boxes transferred to Hong Kong is not just in time, we cannot achieve the cycle. Because of that, we liaise the whole thing from construction to manufacturing. That's the reason why we guaranteed and we actually achieved 2 months, we finished all the installations. And as you can see, the end result is so beautiful. And not only that, we have to give credit to our architect, Thomas and Chow. Basically, they really create what we call intergenerational feel within the community. Things are like different generations from granny to grandchildren, and parents and children, they have really gathered together, enjoy not only the spatial within the unit, but also the playground, all this open space. Of course, we have to thank Housing and Development Bureau previously. They set up a special task force to help us to actually liaise all these different departments in order to speed up the submission process. We thank them tremendously. Without the help, none of this would have happened. And also, we awfully high-tech in the sense that we use robotic. We use robot, and this particular robot we use is what we call robotics laser scanning. We want to double-check our quality to make sure that we build according to our standard. And this is the end result. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this. I'm just so thrilled to actually see. Every single time when I go back to Hayson, it's just like the name. It puts joy and tears into my eyes because this is something that is so meaningful. It's not about a financial return. It's about building a community for the needed. Those people, as a lady there, basically, she was telling me they were waiting to get the key on that particular Saturday. As a parent and with 2 boys. And she was telling me that she held my hands so hard and thanked me as she found out I'm the contractor, and telling me that they don't even have a table for the children to study. And now they have a room and a living room. And the little boy was so joyful that he was just jumping around and saying, I can't wait to get into my unit, and just monkeying around in the play area. And those joyful results that is so vivid. So I urge every one of you, please lay your helping hands to the entire Hong Kong community, as well as to our NGO, our poly, keep doing meaningful research. We need all the data support and financial as well to help build a better Hong Kong. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosanna. That was really enlightening. And I'm sure that both whether the NGO, society, so-called group, and Rosanna, they all work on this project with a big heart. And it is something that new to the design world, I must say to you again, The design, again, is not just generated by designers. The design is being generated and worked together by the community and also the contractors. So we architects are no longer the one who dictate the design. Mr. Lam can discuss with that further later on. But the main part of this afternoon is for us to have a dialogue. So again, I would like to invite Jenny, Architect Lam, and Rosanna to the stage, and then we go on to the next part of this discussion. Okay, thank you. Now, when we do the discussion, I've set a few questions, but by no means this will dictate the scope of how we discuss. And in fact, I would like to invite every one of you down here, since you come for this special occasion, and we are very honored to have you still sitting here for the last presentation. But I know Winnie always saved the best for the last, right, Winnie? So you're also welcome to raise questions and to add comments when we discuss, okay? Now, I've set a few questions, and Jenny, Rosanna, and Architect Lam can respond to it together or individually. But this question, I have thought of it in with good time, because I asked these questions to particularly want to look for solutions for between the NGO who act as a developer with the builder, how they work out new ideas and new solutions to overcome this unique problem. So the first question I want to, sorry, I did not prepare an English version, so I just have to go with the Chinese version. And the first question I'd like to ask our panelists, Jenny, Architect Lam, and Rosanna, with the existing delivery model that we are incorporating, the stakeholders are being, the government has entrusted Jenny and Architect Lam to design these. Okay. Now, don't ask me why the government didn't design this for the public housing design and all that. Okay, I assume that they're busy enough. But it is very unique that they have entrusted a committee group to do that. So, with these specific roles to be played by the committee group, Jenny and Architect Lam, which part you think it is which has been successfully done, and which part you think that there's rooms for improvement? And the same question I'll ask Rosanna from a production, from a contractor point of view. The stakeholders' roles and responsibility in this very unique model, how you would see that these manufacturing technologies such as MIC can be incorporated. Okay, the mic is over there, Jenny, Jenny Architect Lam. Maybe I'll ask you first. Do you see the existing roles of stakeholders, you being the developers, and also the designers for this housing, has any particular aspect do you think it has worked wonderfully, or any particular aspect that you think that it doesn't work or need more improvement? Yeah.
Hello, sorry. So I think in terms of the successful moments is how we collaborated over the span of 2.5 years from the inception of the project up to the construction. All the design requirements from the client side, and they are really concerned not only about the aesthetic part, but most importantly how the building functions for people. And I think in terms of the living quality, as you can see from the Yinghua Gai project, there's a lot of attention to and same values shared between SOCO and ourselves on the space, how it faces the external air, adequate lighting, and so on, and also the communal spaces with it. One of the things I think was we had, well, as it was a struggle, was how to meet the budget, but to still provide communal spaces. There was a lot of challenges or questions about why we need all these podium roofs or recreation rooms. It was cut back a lot, partly because of the budget, but also because of the site constraints, how the building, which had to adopt MIC, but also to meet statutory requirements, which is, I guess, it is necessary to face. but in some sense, maybe a portion of social housing budget could be really dedicated to these unplanned or social needs for communities. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Architect Lam. Jenny, I want you to tell us, I assume this is the first time SOCO developed a project of this scale, is that correct? Develop buildings, you're responsible to design, to build and operate such a complex. Tell us, how do you take on that challenge and whether you think your role has been successfully carried out, any kind of support or any kind of new relationship you'd like to work on in order to make the delivery of these housing projects more effective?
So I would just say, as an NGO, it's very uneasy for us to take the role as a developer. So, but I think it's still very nice to have an opportunity to work with our potential end user and our service client. We can group them together and to figure out how the transitional housing and how their home will be. I think this is the most important part that the government may be unable to include their role for housing development. So I think at the very beginning, I would say it's very nice to have different parties to involve in the construction process. But the most difficult part will be we have no experience in doing any construction at all. It will be very uneasy for us to seek some professional opinion from the very beginning, especially by the time we don't have any funding to support our project. We have no money to do the trailing design and also to look for the feasibility of the land. It's very, with the help of Lam, his help us voluntarily to make the first design so that we can go and apply for the funding. And also thanks to PolyUDC, they gave us a lot of professional ideas and also gave us a lot of support in the project delivery, not only for the design progress and also for the construction part and also the operation, and bring us to explore different possibility of the modern building of housing. Because from our eyes, it seems that NYC, they have quite a lot of potential and also have a lot of area to be better developed. But it seems that for transitional social housing, there is the development part or the flexibility on design is very limited. So I think this is the part we need to focus more on that, and we would like to involve different parties into that to make the design more flexible. And of course, I think the most important part, not only to engage professionals of architects and also the contractor, because they know more about us on how to build more stable house and how to improve the quality and how to adopt different technology into the housing. So I think it's also very important to have the effort of contractor at the earliest stage of design.
Yeah, good, very good. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for mentioning about the early involvement of the contractor. While we have one of the largest contractors in Hong Kong, Rosanna, I would like to ask Rosanna, this probably would also be your first time to work with a committee group that does not have the big technical know-how or the background as the other developers, but you have to deliver a design and build solution for them. How did you find the process, and any particular area that you think that it can be worked on so that there's more better understanding in the product? And also, I think the bottom line is to meet the budget expectation from Jenny and the groups. Unlike other commercial projects, you're not allowed to put variation orders in it. Sorry, if there's any builders out there, you know what I mean. So how did you overcome that, Rosanna? Thanks.
Thank you, Kelvin, for the questions. First of all, this is the very first project, yes, with NGO. But fortunately, it's kind of like a mother carrying a twin, a dummy. We actually won 2 projects at the same time. So we're doing 2 demandable concrete MIC projects. So it's very challenging for us as a team, because it's the very first time that we are doing that. Luckily, our team already applied for IPAs, which got approval. And that meaning, when it comes to actual project, we put it project specific with BD and looking to work with architect like Lam and with the stakeholder, obviously. So it makes the entire process a lot faster. But the key issue I found out is that without, as I mentioned earlier, Housing and Development Bureau at that time, with a special task force to help us to liaise all these different departments in Hong Kong, I don't think we can build that fast. Because in Hong Kong, quite rightly so, building department have to hold the key to make sure that if you don't fulfill all these requirements, you're not allowed to build, which we support. But some of the procedures are quite troublesome and it takes time. And if you look into the conventional way of doing submissions, none of this would have happened. So thanks to the special task force to support us, allow us to speed up the process, first of all. And as I miss out one thing, which I find quite funny and challenging, but at the same time is very interesting, is that at the beginning, remember we held a workshop with all the stakeholders. I think that helps tremendously because within the workshop, everyone can voice out what they want, the wish list, and the do's and don'ts. By running so openly before we build and frozen the design, it gives us a last minute thought to look into the entire project again before we make actual production. Now, when it comes to modular integrated construction, everyone, one key thing everyone's got to remember, after we make the actual mock-up, you can actually take all the comments and everything else. But once that's done, once it comes to production, that's it. No turning back. In other words, we will not make any allowance from that point onwards. So in other words, everything is frozen. That's the reason why we've frozen the design. We can actually only took us 2 months to do the manufacturing and 2 months for the deliverable, just like that, without fail. And of course, more importantly, we have to have a very good quality control, which we've done. So that makes a very successful project, I think. And again, in between, of course, we have a lot of challenges, especially like the plant and so on and so forth. But with the team, we work so well together, and we put our heart onto the table, iron all these issues out. I think the end result was actually vivid. When you look at those children, I think it sums up everything.
So glad to hear that from Rosanna. In fact, everyone can see that now the design process itself is not just architects sitting in the office, nor it is the contractors determining what's the outcome, but a collection of efforts, the collaborations of all parties, also involving the authority to help us to go through that process. It's a totally brand new delivery mechanism, if you ask me. I'm an architect for most of my life. Therefore, my next question is, how would you see policy support or the next layers of policy support can help the process that you three has been gone through? For example, on the development and the operation side for Jenny and for Rosanna, on how MIC can further be enhanced to specifically meet this challenge. And we ask Architect Lam and Jenny first to respond to this. Any policy support that you wish to propose?
I think rather than saying it's a policy support, I think it's the how the industry gets more acquainted with modular integrated construction, because one of the main challenges, even from inception to construction, is how do you understand this novel construction technology in terms of logistics planning, even the module widths and how it brings to the site via the highways. You make sure all these swept paths get correct. I think this is one of the main challenges for us architects to plan, contractors to think about their construction planning, for the government to get their heads on the issue. So it's more how the whole industry and government understands this MIC technology, and I think it's getting better with our second project at hand. People get more familiar with the technology, and hence new codes or guidelines can be available to the different statutory bodies or even to us industry stakeholders. to get to the process.
I totally agree with that. Rosanna, would you think that if I say that this actually brings us, architects and contractors and community groups, to a high level that we would communicate more effectively actually to achieve the outcome? Otherwise, if we are either over budget or design, it is not right.
Yeah,
How would you
absolutely. There's
think?
a term for that, Kevin. It's called IPD, Integrated Project Delivery.
Oh,
Especially
wonderful.
meaning the whole stakeholders work together and using technology, in this case BIM, Building Information Modeling, as a central focal tool to work out all these pros and cons, do's and don'ts, before, during, after the entire building management. So it really effective, it's proven, it works in a lot of projects. But in terms of this, may I say a few sort of actual feeling that we had? I think first of all, people might not know this. I really thank our last chief executive, Mrs. Carrie Lam. It's her vision in 2017 to have modular integrated construction, this concept, brought to Hong Kong. Without that, none of this would have happened. Second of all, I would like to really thank the last Housing and Transportation Bureau, in particular Secretary Frank. Again, without him pushing it in 2018, and actually determine a budget of 550,000 per unit. Even though we can debate that is not adequate enough, but what have you, we can talk about the cows come home, but we still have a budget to build. We have a budget, and then we have an NGO, we have a formula. Might not be the perfect formula, but it's something that at least we can try. Look at the result. When people move in, those are the people living in those subdivided units. It's a very awful conditions. They can get away from that. Those are the really joyful results everyone can see. That's the reason why we shouldn't stop here. We should just carry on, and there's no turning back. Because you can see the actual result, the productivities, the quality, the time. Basically, our very first project that we've done for modular integrated construction for actual residents were actually from C's actual mouths. You also mentioned to people that we fasted 10 months from the actual timing that they stated. And for these two particular projects, it's 3 months, 3.5 months. So it's actually 40%. So in other words, if something that it works for us in Hong Kong, we should stick to it and keep pushing the boundary, asking more budget, getting more land, and speed up the process, basically. I think that's really the way forward, personally.
Wonderful. I totally agree with you. Before we move on, we almost run out of time. But before I move on, anyone on the floor have any questions to us or want to give any comment before I ask the last questions? Yeah, there's a lady at the back over there. Nicole, please. Oh, there's two. Oh, okay, this lady too.
I'd like to thank the speakers for this presentation, and my question is to Ms. Rosanna. So you mentioned that there was no BIM model prepared for the construction process. How about the as-built model? And are you planning to use BIM for the maintenance and for the future reuse for the similar projects?
Very good question, thank you. First of all, I'm a freak. I love data, I love BIM. Normally, every single project in Hong Kong, if it's 30 million and above, we must use BIM. But this is something very exceptional because this is a demandable transitional housing, meaning it's not sustainable in the sense that only for a few years. So the whole idea is different, and there's no budget for BIM. So in other words, from the design stage and planning, we didn't use BIM. However, when it comes to the manufacturing, we use, maybe awfully good software called Tekla. We use Tekla to actually design on the mold making first, to increase on the precisions, and then we actually make the actual mold, and then we actually make the boxes. And all these are verified checking, and including with my robotic laser scanning for actually do the checking before and after. It's just that my point was we have no budget to do the entire BIM. And when it comes to SBL, we don't call it SBL, we call it LOD 500, and that's a norm in Hong Kong as well. But in this particular one, there's no need for it because contractually didn't allow for it, and we don't have budget for it. But normally for the main contractor in Hong Kong, most of us will actually do that. And I would say we don't call it SBL BIM as well because that is a very bad habit that our industry is promoting. We should do BIM all the way. The entire process from start to finish, not something that is only finished with use the SBL. The SBL mentality is actually passé, especially when it comes to 21st century. We should really move forward to do BIM all the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosanna. The lady over there, please. Nicole is standing right next to her. Yeah, please go.
Thank you for the presentation. presentation for this meaningful project. My question is on the phrase which Rosanna talks about the recyclability of the MIC units. Basically, all MIC are new in Hong Kong. How do you make sure it can be recycled? Because this project, like the Ying West Street project, is pretty site-specific, so the number of units or how they're placed are quite restricted already. How do you think it can fit into another site? And if the use of the land has ended, where will you put the capsules on boxes? Would it become like a cemetery of MIC boxes? Thanks.
Very good question, and I'll take this question very seriously. Since you are a young lady, I will invite you to be with us all the way. The reason being is because we do things wholeheartedly. We're not joking around, and we are very serious to build a community for Hong Kong, and we put our heart and soul into it. I really thank you for these questions because you allow me to explain to you why we're doing this. First of all, the brief was not just demandable, not just transitional housing. It's demandable transitional housing. And also our government didn't force us to use what material. So there's a choices. For us, we do 3 choices. Concrete MIC, steel MIC, or hybrid MIC. We do them all. However, in this particular case, we use MIC, we've chosen to use concrete is because we believe concrete is better quality when it comes to solar penetration, when it comes to noise reduction, when it comes to recyclable, reusable, that's better because we've proven we actually make a film to show BD that we can actually, after we build a 2-story as a mock-up, and then we unscrew everything and take it away and put it as a side. We film the entire thing. We actually witness the whole process as well. So in other words, not just by witnessing the actual installation and dismantle, but also by calculation. And our methodology is after 3 decades of experiences, know-how, and hard work in multidisciplinary in order to have this frustration to do MIC. Not only demandable, we've also done a calculation. Our methodology can apply to the majority of locations in Hong Kong. It's feasible. So I welcome you. Again, Kelvin, I think we should keep these ladies in contact because we are doing research further on as well. We are very serious about this. We want to promote this not only just in Hong Kong. We, like KK, we want to help other countries, especially the underdeveloped country, when it comes to crisis like earthquake or like flooding, what have you. We can just fly and teach them how to build a plant, a temporary plant, how to use the local materials or readjust to the local material and help them build a home, a shelter. A permanent shelter, you can actually, our Yinghua project, you can keep up forever. You don't have to dismantle it, but you can because those locations are a prime location in Hong Kong. And the land is a scarcity in Hong Kong. I'm sure our government will put better use of that land. That's the reason why our brief has to be demandable. And I can assure you it's demandable as well. That's the reason why we're so proud to say all this we do is actually a sustainable construction. We're very green. So I welcome you to be part of our research group. It is because everything is proven. We've got nothing to hide. Thank you.
Yes, please contact us. We have the contact over there. Because of the time, I have to close this discussion unless there's other urgent questions that anyone want to ask. That's the last chance that you can ask. But before that, I want to thank that a friend, that lady at the back, to point out this very important question. So how about relocating these? As Rosanna just said, we are doing a research on that. And the next thing you might be interested is the one in Lam Chong Street will be relocated later this year and will be transported to Tai Po, to another site, being run by Lok Sin Tong. Now, this is the first time, I believe, in Hong Kong's history to witness and actually carry out that operation. In overseas, as this friend has said, it was kind of a cemetery. They put it in a warehouse. In Vancouver, they put it in a warehouse. Vancouver has over 40 projects of this kind of housing there, but they have never, ever successfully transferred to another site yet. The best they can do is just take it apart and store it somewhere else. Okay, so these are very important and effort that we would undertake with the help of the community and also the industry. We try to explore that further. So thank you very much for your time. And again, once again, I would like to thank our friends here, Jenny, Architect Lam, and Rosanna for dedicating their effort and this very afternoon to share with us. I'm sure this video will view by many of us in the building industry. And again, I would welcome all of you as part of the community, as one of the most important stakeholders designing housing for the community. Now, this is not just for everyone. This is not just for a small part of the people that's in need. Eventually, this model will be explored in other facilities such as schools, elderly homes, and all kinds of buildings. And if you have the opportunity to take part in that, please do that. And also, my unit, DCA, Design Institute for Social Innovation, we will explore opportunities like this. So keep in touch with us. If you want to join our workshop, want to take part, want to design the housing that you like, want to design the schools that you want your kids to go to, or want to design the hospitals. Okay, the latest is the new Chinese medicine hospitals will also be done in MIC, correct, Rosanna? So it's a new paradigm of everything new, where communities are most welcome or have a very opportunity to participate. So once again, applause for the panelists, and thank you very much for all you come. Yeah, thank you. See you again, and please keep in touch. Thank you. Thank you again, Winnie. Thank you. Sorry over for a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.